Welcome to the Red Hot Reds podcast presented by Ohio Sports Talk. Welcome to the show. Thanks again. I'm Roger. That's Ricky. We are here for Ohio Sports Talk to cover the 2025 Reds season. We first want to thank Jordan and Doug for lending us this platform to get you out this content on all the platforms. So please follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter/X. We're also a podcast that's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And thank you to Ricky for doing all the technical stuff behind the scenes, all the social clips, all that. We really appreciate that. But today, it's the time of the week that we have a special guest, someone in the Reds media universe that covers the Reds or talks about the Reds in any certain way. This guy has been writing for Just Baseball since 2021 and has been kind of inspiration for Ricky and myself to do our writing, to do our Reds coverage. And we're really appreciative of him to have us talk to him today. And his name is Mr. Clay Snowden. So, Ricky, are you ready?
Let's go.
This is the Red Hot Reds podcast. Here are your hosts, Ricky Logan and Roger Straz.
All right, welcome to the Red Hot Reds podcast. I'm Roger, that's Ricky, and it's the time of the week that we have a big interview with a special guest, a guy that Ricky and I both admire with his writing on Just Baseball, a guy that's been covering the Reds for Just Baseball and has also many very different interests as well that we're going to get into because we'd like to cover in this interview not just the baseball aspect of our guest's life, but also things off the field to kind of fill out and kind of show you that, we're more than just baseball writers, more than just baseball people. But we have, again, a guy that Ricky and I really admire. We subscribe to Just Baseball just to see his stuff. And today we have Mr. Clay Snowden. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. And man, what an intro. You all make me sound a lot more important than I actually am. So that I'm not gonna lie, it felt pretty good. But I've been writing for Just Baseball since 2021. This is my fifth season doing so. So yeah, I guess I started in 2021. Cover the entire league, write mostly about the Tigers and Reds, but just about anything really. I used to cover the Athletics as well, which lasted about 3 months until I mentally couldn't do it anymore. So, I've dipped my toes in a lot of different things there. Did a fantasy podcast for a while, but mostly just writing now.
Yeah, and I do apologize. I kind of hesitate for a second because I know you go by Clay, but I almost went Claiborne Snowden. I almost went.
Well, both are right. Both are right. You pronounced everything correctly. That's always my greatest fear is mispronouncing someone's name. So you did a great job.
I was just trying to. I almost tripped over my words. But anyway, before anything, let's get kicked off with your first baseball memory or Reds memory that you have that sticks with you.
Yeah, this is the first podcast that's ever asked me questions about me personally. So I haven't thought about a lot of this stuff, but I find it interesting to think back now. And my first thing is, so I didn't grow up in a family that had parents who were baseball or sports enthusiasts at all. So for me, it was my first Reds memory was watching games on Fox Sports Ohio with George Grand on the call in my parents' basement. And for whatever reason, my brother and I would record them on VHS. We'd never watch them again, but we just had them on VHS for a while and we just record over them. And I remember going to my first game. And the Reds played the Dodgers. Adrian Beltre was on the Dodgers and Steve Finley, and they had a good team. So it was kind of cool to see them. But I've always been just a huge baseball fan and just can't get enough. I watch every single night. I'll watch quad screens, all the games and the West Coast games as well. So I'm always absorbing baseball.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Do you have a favorite game that you went to?
Favorite game would be I went to when the Reds played the Phillies in the playoffs and got eliminated. I wouldn't say that's my favorite game, but probably the most intense game I've been to. Um, I haven't been to any like special Reds games. I went to 2019 opening day. Derek Dietrich pinch hit home run. They ended up winning. Like that was a fun game. Probably the funniest Reds adjacent game. I used to go to a ton of Bats games because I lived in Louisville at the time. I live in Lexington now, but I did see Diano Navarro, who was a catcher, hit a walk-off grand slam for the Bats, and I don't know why that's always stuck in my head.
That's crazy.
That's awesome.
You went to St. X.
hmm
Did you see Elder as a legitimate rival, or
No, not really. Honestly, like when I saw that question, I was like, man, I got to think about this. Like I remember Elder, but I don't really remember much of a like hatred. So much of St. X in Louisville, for those who don't know, I'm sure most people who are listening do, but St. X's big rival is Trinity, both in Louisville, both similar schools. So that absorbed a lot of it. And honestly, like I wouldn't have said it back then, but I'll say it now. Like the Ohio high schools were so much better than the Kentucky high schools at sports that like we really didn't like admitting that, St. X Cincinnati was just like better than us at everything, but we didn't like admitting it. And anytime we went up to play Ohio schools, it did not go well for us.
Did you play any sports in high school or did any activities or whatnot?
No, I when I went to St. X, I made the decision instead of playing sports, I wanted to actually be an athletic trainer. So that's what I did. I wanted to be around sports, but I wanted to do that long term, like get into sports medicine was my goal when I went to high school. So instead of playing sports, I switched to sports medicine and did that for 4 years. And then when it was time to decide if I wanted to do that as a career, I said, I don't know. I just didn't think it was right for me. So I did not pursue that after high school, even though that was kind of the plan the whole time. But I was the athletic trainer for baseball, basketball, football, wrestling, did some track and field, lacrosse games. So I was around sports a lot. Not I loved it, honestly.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and even though that you weren't, into sports, we saw that you're kind of an avid fisherman, which
Yeah,
there's competitive fishing, so that's a sport as well. We'll give you that,
yeah,
sportsman hat. Where did you start your love for fishing or getting into fishing?
yeah. So that's actually funny. It's right here. You can see this photo is my grandpa and I. Here, I'll grab it because you all will get a kick out of this. But this is from Christmas Day. That's me in the blue. Christmas Day when I was 9 years old, my grandpa bought me a fly fishing rod, and we went in the backyard. And since then, I've just been hooked. And I've done. I want to fish in every state. I've done 27 states. I could talk fishing all day long.
You got a favorite place to fish or a favorite state?
I spent a summer in Maine at a fly fishing lodge working there, and I wish I could do that for the rest of my life. I loved everything about Maine. Now that was in the summer, not the winter, so a little bit too cold up there for most of the year.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Any favorite spots around Kentucky where you live that you go to all the time?
Um, I live near the Elkhorn River, so I have a canoe, and my buddy and I would float that and do some smallmouth fishing throughout the summer, and that's always, fun to do.
Nice, nice. All right.
do you get close to like Mammoth Cave at all?
No, I don't really venture that way too often. I do spend some time in the gorge. Um, so if anybody ever goes there, there's some trout fishing there as well.
Yeah, my dad he goes up to like Michigan City up in Indiana, and that's where he goes he goes like every August or something.
Yeah.
And
Salmon fishing?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so you went to UK. Were you a basketball fan, or did you get to witness any like championships or anything there?
No, so deep down I'm actually a diehard Michigan State fan. However, I couldn't afford to go to Michigan State with it being out of State. So I went to UK, and I cheer for UK. I don't have an emotional attachment. I was a UK fan as a kid, but I kind of that wore off. But I enjoy UK sports, and um, I was there from 2012 to 2016, so I saw some good and some bad UK teams, but um, overall not the best run. It was kind of right after or right before I was there was kind of when they were very good. But we still partied. There's a couple times that in the tournament that they made it far, and with the Harrison twins, and we did the whole State Street and Couches on Fire and all kinds of whatever shenanigans we got into. So I did get to experience that once or twice.
How'd the Michigan State fandom come about? That seems kind of random for someone. You're naturally from Kentucky, right? So like,
Yeah. All of so without having sports parents and living in Kentucky, I have crazy teams. Like I picked them all as a kid. Kids don't make good decisions. So I picked I'm a Celtics fan, a Buffalo Bills fan, a Chicago Blackhawks fan, a Michigan State fan. Like all of this has loose connections, really. It's like, oh, I picked the Blackhawks as a kid because I like the logos and jerseys on the video game we were playing on my 64, and all of them have pretty loose connections. But I've been a strong fan of all those teams my whole life. So for better or for worse.
I say, you think the Big Ten's ever going to win a national championship? It's been 25 years since Izzo won in 2000, right? And Big Ten in general. You think any chance there for the Big Ten anytime soon?
I'm not the biggest basketball fan. I used to be. I've kind of since 2020. I really haven't followed it as closely. I did watch. There's a lot of rumbling about MSU being a good team this year, so I watched their tournament games this year. But that was the first I'd watched them. But it kind of felt like this was the year for it to happen for Izzo, and it didn't happen. So I don't know. It could be a slippery slope from here.
Yeah, no, they're the second seed, and they had a pretty decent run, but I don't know. I'm originally from Illinois, and I have a lot of connections to Illinois basketball team because in 2005 they had a deep run. They went undefeated up until the championship game against North Carolina, and they ended up losing back then. So it's like, so the Big Ten
Who's
is
on that team?
A bunch of guys: James Augustine, Luther Head,
Yes, I remember that team.
and Darren Williams ended up being the best of the bunch, and he ended up playing for the Jazz and Brooklyn Nets or whatever.
Nets, yeah.
So that was a team that was near and dear to me, but that's back in Illinois, and Big Ten's been kind of, they're good, but I don't know. It's been rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm originally from Northern California by Sacramento, so I've always been like a closet Kings fan because we've always been so terrible. And I'm a 49ers fan. I like the Bengals, but like 49ers, I just grew up around all the stuff, like my dad, born and raised there. And obviously like my mom, she was in the Marines in the 70s during the Big Red Machine, so she had all the stuff, and I think she's the one that passed the Reds on to me.
Yeah, so I guess the Kings just clinched the playoff team, man. Break out the Kings gear. Let everyone know, loud and proud.
Let's go.
Light the beam.
Light the beam. Yeah, light the beam.
Yeah. I'm going to go off script a little bit. You've mentioned a couple times that your parents weren't big sports enthusiasts. Did they have other things that they were encouraging you to do, or did they?
Yeah, my parents were awesome. I don't want to sound bad, but neither one of them had very much any interest in sports. So everything we learned was from Sports Center or ESPN, whatever. And I just my brother and I just gravitated towards it. I mean, we would sit down on a Saturday and watch the same Sports Center on a loop for 4 straight hours. We'd watch it 4 times. We were quoting what was going to come next after it. So it really just kind of grabbed me. And then I played sports growing up. So that's kind of where it took off further. But I had a pretty typical childhood, nothing crazy. I don't, just about what you'd imagine. We'd spend summers at the lake, and that's kind of where we spent a lot of time. So, but it was great.
Yeah, and that's probably where you developed your love for baseball. Was it like through SportsCenter? Because like imagine same like Ricky and I, like we grew up, I think around the same time, but baseball was like a big deal. You know what I mean? At least as far as I was there. Like football and basketball. I mean, in Chicago it was obviously the Bulls and all that for me in Illinois, but like baseball seemed to have like a through line. Is that like kind of where baseball kind of developed your love for that and at that time?
I have no idea how it happened. I really don't. My parents hated baseball. Hated it. So I don't even know how I really began watching it as a kid. Um, I know my uncle took me to my first game, but I don't remember if it was I started watching it on TV just because we had that channel.
Hmm.
Um, or if it was I went to that first game and then that hooked me to start watching. I don't remember which came first, the chicken or the egg there. Um, but yeah, it was as early as I can remember. I mean, those are some of my earliest memories as an actual, kid is watching D'Angelo Jimenez and other awful Reds teams struggle to 70 wins every year.
Yeah, those early 2000s were brutal. I mean, you
Yeah.
had Felipe Lopez was an all-star, and then
Oh,
he's
I
gone.
love Felipe Lopez,
He
man.
was my favorite player.
That's good. So yeah, just to transition a bit, I think you mentioned you started Just Baseball about 2021. Like, were you writing before that at all?
Yeah.
Was that your first foray into writing about baseball?
Yeah, so I had always been interested in writing, but I didn't have like a journalism degree. I didn't have, an in. And Jeff Carr of Locked On Reds, this was 2019. I don't remember how it happened, but I was talking to him and they were looking for somebody to write or whatever the situation was. I ended up writing for Locked On Reds. I don't think they do this anymore, but they used to have a website where they'd post articles. So Jeff and I were writing, and um, I was going on a different podcast back then. Pardon the punctuation, which is now no longer. But long story short, I was listening to a podcast that had Arm Layton on there, who is now the founder of Just Baseball. Well, I invited him to come on this Reds podcast. That's how we met. And then he reached out to me saying, "Hey, I started this website earlier this year. We're looking for a Reds guy. I've seen your stuff, whatever. Do you want to do this?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." I've always just loved what Just Baseball is all about. So I think I started writing in August or so of 2021 for Just Baseball. And like I said, I'm one of the longest tenured people there. So many people have left and gone and moved on to bigger, better things. And but Just Baseball just keeps growing. And it's funny now because like it's kind of hard to get a thing at Just Baseball, like a writing gig. And I like, I'll have people reach out to me like, "Hey man, how do I get started?" I was like, "Man, I don't have a journalism degree. I didn't do anything. I just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and got better and better and self-critiqued and met with editors and said, edit this in front of me so I see what you do. How do I get better?" Um, and just kept working at it. Now I've written probably 300 articles for Just Baseball. Um, and I love doing it. So it's something that I plan on doing it for as long as possible. And I do some other things there too. I help with this and that and generating article ideas. I run all of the merchandise. So um, anything on their website that's for sale is either designed by me or one of the people on the committee. And if you ever order a hat from Just Baseball, it's going through my hands and I'm putting it in a box. So I got everyone's address if you're ordering hats. I know where you live.
Yeah, and credit card information for that matter. But yeah, that's all. I didn't know you were like one of the, I mean, quote unquote, kind of like founding members of Just Baseball. Ricky and I both
Yeah, so
site a lot.
Aram and Peter and Jack and Colby, all these guys who kind of really started, all went to Syracuse together.
Mm.
They were all in broadcast journalism. COVID hit. They didn't have games to call right out of college and whatnot, so they started this website. And Um, yeah, and Ryan Finkelstein, who's the editor there, he's been there since the beginning, and there's a handful of us still around, and Jack is now the radio play-by-play guy for the Marlins, but he's still involved on the podcast side, and um, I don't know. It's a good staff now. I mean, the writers. There's no chance I could have gotten this gig if I tried to do it today. I got lucky, got in early, and I'm not letting my spot go.
No, it's great. We, like I said, Ricky and I really enjoy it, and it's something we do have some questions about the prospects list, but we'll save that for a little bit later. But
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I have questions about that too. I text Arm about that every time it comes out, and I'm always giving him shit for it.
no, but yeah,
Yeah.
we like your work a lot, so it's
Yeah.
good.
But I appreciate it.
Yeah, because we're I guess you could call it freelance journalists. We don't have any kind of publications. You post on Substack. I post through the website that I post through, and we look up to you and Greg from Reds Daily, and you guys are big inspirations on how we want to like attack our, because there's styles in writing, and you got to really find the balance between grabbing their attention and keeping their attention, and not being too clickbaity, but being clickbaity enough to get them in. So yeah, it's
And
interesting.
that's something that I think, and I don't talk. I never talk about myself, so this is a little uncomfortable. But I'm glad to talk about is one thing that I think people like about me is I try to be extremely fair and extremely honest, and sometimes that comes off as, hey, I'm being too positive, but it's really, or too negative or whatever. But I'm not much of a clickbait article type person. I'm more or less just like, if this is boring, that's fine. But here's how I feel. But I really try hard to paint the picture of what's going on. But I found what works best for me is just always actually put down what I say, even if it's against the grain, even if it's, in 2019, I was verbally not a Nick Senzel guy, and I got all kinds of crap for that. And hey, it turned out I was right. And then there's been times where I've been really in on this guy and been completely wrong. But admitting when you're wrong, admitting, hey, I learned from this, and just being honest and transparent with people is so easy. And just natural for me. So that's kind of what translates in my writing is, I'm not afraid to say, hey, I was wrong on this, and this person's doing great now. And I wrote this horrible article about how much they sucked 3 weeks ago, and whatever it might be. But I appreciate that, and I think that a lot of people that are doing kind of what you all are doing or what I'm doing, any type of fan driven content creation, article writing, podcasters, whatever we want to call it. It's always best to just support each other. I mean, there's a lot of competition out there, and I get that, but that's why I agree to go on any podcast and whatnot. I just want to chit chat with all you all and learn from you all as well. There's so much to learn from everybody in this space. So I'm going to be picking your all's brains as well.
Yeah, when we had Greg on, that was one thing we talked about was like, like Reds fandom is really almost like a brotherhood in a way, just because like with social media, you can really reach out to anybody and you can get a response. And speaking of social media, I see you're on X at Clay_Snow without the W, and Clay_Snowden 2. Do you have
I'll tell that story
any
if
other
you want me to.
burners? Any other
So
burners you want to know about?
I have another Twitter account that I would call my personal account. And I will not give it out, but if you all want it, I will shoot it to you. It's where I probably am a little bit more edgy than I should be. I don't really tweet that much from it, but it's mostly just about music or movies. But so originally I was at Clay_Reds. But when I started writing for Just Baseball and I was writing about the Astros or the A's, and it would say, read this from Clay_Reds, I thought that just was stupid. So I switched it. Well, I guess 22, 23, whenever it was, I said, okay, we need an A's writer at Just Baseball, someone covering the Athletics. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. Like, I already watched their games. That no one else wanted to do it. So I created its own Twitter account. In full transparency, I don't know if I've actually like told this. Full transparency was I created that in hopes of building it to a point for when they moved to Vegas, we at Just Baseball would already have an established account in which I would then hand off to whoever our Vegas A's account would be. And boom, here's a huge fan base. We have a, kind of an in already as these new fans are coming. Well, that lasted about 3 months of me staying up to 2 a.m. watching miserable baseball. And I said, listen, man, I mean, the A's are fine and all, but like, I like the Tigers. Like, that was my second team. Like, I grew up in like Curtis Granderson and like they were going to the World Series. Like, I gravitated towards that team. And we didn't have a Tigers writer. So I said, can I just switch this to cover the Tigers? Because I actually enjoy them. So that account is my quote unquote Tigers account. So if anyone is interested in Detroit Tigers, exact same type of tweets as I tweet about the Reds, by golly, you can follow me on there and learn about the Tigers too, I guess.
Have you had any issue with accidentally tweeting to the wrong account and having the wrong take at the wrong account?
It's dramatic for me to say my greatest fear, but I do have a fear of doing that and just looking like an idiot. But I haven't yet. I'm very careful. It's funny you say that because today I was tweeting during the Tigers 1 o'clock game and also tweeting on my Reds account, toggling back and forth. And I was like, I almost did it today. I was like about to tweet something about, I think it was like Colt Keith. And I looked down and saw the wrong icon. I was like, oh, okay, let me switch back over. I don't like nobody would probably notice, but it would be weird. People would just be like, why is Clay tweeting about, this Tyler Holton coming out of the bullpen? Like, why is he doing this?
What is he watching? Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. And then you say your personal one has got like the hottest of takes, even hotter than your baseball takes.
No, it's no real hot takes. Probably just a little bit more just off topic stuff. I'm not like doing it, I don't talk politics or anything. It's more just like me tweeting out something about a movie or music or a joke that's probably too edgy or too deep on the black hole of the internet for people to understand on a baseball account.
Yeah, fair. Any fishing takes or anything like that? Because
I don't think I've tweeted any fishing takes, but maybe I should start.
well, there was this one incident. I can't remember if it was fairly recent or maybe a year or so ago where they had caught a guy putting weights in the fish in this competitive.
Yes, I saw this. Yeah.
Well, I was trying to think like back ahead. It was like there's got to be a bunch of people that have got opinions on this because this seems like
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's probably a written rule, but like one of the biggest things you can do or not to do as a fisherman.
Oh yeah.
So,
People wanted that guy's head. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's that. When I saw that or read about it, I was like, oh man, this has got to be like the fisherman world on fire about this type of stuff.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, transitioning. Let's talk a little bit more baseball. This is something we were going to talk about, the Reds in general, but I saw your appearance on Chatterbox a couple weeks ago. I guess my point blank question is, what is your beef with the Reds outfield?
I don't know what I said back then or what you're referring to, but I don't doubt that I said something about the Reds outfield probably just being a collection of fourth outfielders is what I imagine I said. Which is kind of still how I feel, honestly. Like, I think Spencer Steer at the end of the day has the highest floor with upside. I don't really know how I want to phrase it. I guess I trust him the most to at least be reliable. I've always had my concerns with TJ Friedel, and he was a guy that I was really low on and then talked myself into, and now I'm kind of like, I don't know what he is. And Jake Fraley, I mean, he just has not looked like a major leaguer so far. I'm very high on the Austin Hayes signing. Of course, he's been injured. We haven't seen him yet. So we need to feel that one out. But at the end of the day, the issue I have with this outfield was not only does it lack talent at the major league level, the depth in the minor leagues is very suspect. Will Benson, who we saw strike out 3 times today, today being Wednesday, 4 times, excuse me, 4 times.
Holding some ground.
It's not good. Reese Hines is not saving the day. Jacob Hurtubise, don't get me started. I just don't think the reinforcements are there. So for me, the whole offseason was you've got to add outfielders. I thought the Hayes addition was great. I would have loved to have seen a Michael Conforto, even somebody in that range. I'm not asking go out and get Juan Soto or anything like that, but another established, proven vet would have been awesome. Now, I mean, you're going to have to look at the deadline, and that's far away, or you're going to have to get very aggressive, or you do nothing and just cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Yeah, for sure. I think you might have got headlined or edited, clickbaited, a type of thing, because I think the Chatterbox video headline was Clay Snowden, the Reds outfield stinks, and it has your like picture of like like signing off.
That is 100% an Elliott thing. I know that dude did that to me. He's always doing something like that, but I don't mind. They can put words in my I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
I love those guys, and yeah, I mean, I probably did say something along those lines. That I'm not backing down from it. I do think it stinks, and I think we've seen that. Fraley looks horrible. I think Blake Dunn, there's a chance, but again, like all of these guys are either like the third best outfielder on a team, ideally, or fourth outfielders, and for some of these guys, they're minor league depth. Will Benson, to me, minor league depth. Jake Fraley's looking like a fourth outfielder at best. Like, I just think that there needs to be a higher ceiling player in this outfield. And that was the area that they could have improved the most. You felt like shortstop taken care of, second base taken care of, first base, enough options there. You brought in Lux, enough options in the infield. Where can you improve? It was either going to be third base. They already had a lot of options there, or it could be in the outfield. And I just didn't think that they did enough in the outfield.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a bunch of rumors about Luis Robert last year potentially being traded and whatnot, and then Profar, but I think possibly they missed a bullet with that because it seems like Profar's inflated season last year was aided by PEDs. But anyway, that's besides the point. But yeah, I don't know. Is there any possibility of like Ellie going to outfield of like an O'Neal Cruz type of situation, or is that not in the cards?
I hope not, and if it ever happened, I hope it would be a lot better than what we've seen from O'Neal Cruz in the outfield. Oh my gosh, it's been a disaster out there for him. And to his defense, or in his defense, it's not been the biggest sample size, but either way, I just think Ellie needs to stay at short. Eventually, I do think he'll move to third. Once short, if he loses range, that's years and years down the road, in my opinion. But I think you let him stay at short. We saw a great play out of him today at shortstop, and I think people forget how young he is. And somebody as tall as him has long levers. His legs are long, his arms are long. There's a lot of moving parts there. It's kind of hard to. It's not the most natural looking movement as you see it. It's kind of lanky and drags behind at times, but give him some time. Let him ease into it. I think he is a good player. I think his biggest mistakes are routine plays. That's something he will clean up. It's it's something that is annoying and obnoxious to watch at first, and it's frustrating. But if I said, "Hey, here's a player," and like his biggest mistakes are things that are probably more focused than anything, you'd say, "Okay, we can teach that. We can improve that. We can iron that out." It's not, "Hey, this guy cannot hit a breaking ball, man. Good luck. See if he can figure it out." It's a correctable mistake and a relatively easy correctable mistake.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we were kind of hoping for was like an outfield addition in the offseason that was like substantial. And I think part of the problem was going back to last year in the draft. We picked Chase Burns, and I'm happy we picked him. But you had bats available, and I'd even go as far as even including like Jack Caglione. Like he looks really
Mhm.
good. Like were you satisfied with the Burns pick, or were you expecting anything else? Because I was kind of leaning towards uh, Charlie Condon a little bit, but
Yeah. And those are both outfielders that theoretically could, help the Reds. And to me, I was happy with the pick, and I'll tell you why. And this is a yes, but if asterisk situation. The Reds are not going to sign high-end pitchers. A, extremely expensive. B, why would I want to pitch at Great American Ballpark? So the only way to get a high-end pitcher is through your organization or trade. We know how much they are to trade. So drafting pitchers, I like this. Actually, I love spending the first round pick on a pitcher, and look what it's got them. Green, Lodolo, um, Chase Burns, or excuse me, Chase Burns. Chase Petty was a trade, but he was a first round pitcher.
Louder.
And Red Lauder, right? And so on. And they've gotten more in the draft. But I think you have to emphasize drafting those starting pitchers because there's not a clear tunnel or avenue on how to acquire them unless you find a trade partner that works out. So that's great, right? This is the if asterisk part. You got to sign hitters. Like if you're not going to spend high end draft capital on hitters and you do on pitchers, that's great. Then you've got to supplement that from outside the organization or really good development. I think the development on the hitting side has been okay. Obviously, there's McLean and there's Ellie and there's CES and Steering, and there's some good, some good talent there. But I think it is lacking just a little bit, not much. Like nothing to be like sound the alarms. But if you're going to use high end draft capital on pitchers, I want you to use your other high end resources, trade, free agency, whatever it may be, on hitters. And I don't think that they've done that to the extent that I would wish.
Yeah, like the Austin Hendrick signing draft 2020, that was just brutal. But to be fair with Hendrick though, like this is 2025, he'd be 1 year in post 4 years of high school, so maybe or college, maybe he's got something in the tank. But what is your outlook on this season so far? Granted, we're 12, 13 games in.
So
What excites you the most, and like what really concerns you more?
wow, the excitement is Hunter Green. I mean, Ricky, I swear we are seeing like a monumental shift from a very good pitcher to a legitimate Cy Young. The other night, his game in San Francisco, man, that was next level Hunter Green. And it felt, and I don't want to sound dramatic, but it's going to sound dramatic. That felt like the turning point. That felt like the moment I will remember that Hunter Green like started his Cy Young candidacy. So I'm excited about the starting pitching overall. I know Nick Martinez has been a little shaky, but I'm excited about really the whole pitching staff in general. Like I think that they're good enough to win games and like be a contender. The main concerns comes from the lineup, and we could start up and down this lineup and pick it apart. And a lot of it has to do with really like depth. Like I just don't think that they have a ton of depth in the upper minors that can be counted on. So if this injury hits or that injury hits, like where are they going to turn? That's a concern for me. Honestly, my biggest concern is one that I didn't think I'd have at all, and that's Terry Francona. And I hate to sound like, a wet rag here. Just, I think he's been awful. And for somebody who's won as much as he has and is, taking teams to the top, I'm just surprised. And the surface level thought is the manager's not, swinging the bat, and that's true to an extent. And the other thought is, well, he doesn't have good enough talent. True to an extent. All of that is true. There's layers to all of this, though. Why are you batting Gavin Lux against a lefty? Why is Santiago Espinal in the 2-hole? Why are you bringing in this pitcher? Why did you leave this guy in that long? Or, there's a lot of decisions that he's making as a manager that I disagree with. And of course, my first thought is, well, I'm just an idiot with a Twitter account. There's a million of me. Who am I to challenge this guy? But when it happens game after game, and then you see other people all who are much smarter than me also realizing this and pointing this out, it makes you start to wonder, like, Is he going to change? And that is why I'm not like, this is a disaster, burn it down. They can't win. We're 11, 12 games in. Who cares? My thing is, will he change? Or do we see Espinal in the two hole again? Do we see these common kind of, I don't know if mistakes is the right word because it's really opinions. But do we see this trend continue, or do we see him say, okay, this isn't working. I need to self-correct. Do I put Ellie in the two hole? That's what I would do. Do you move this player up or down? It's all these small things that in the grand scheme of things, okay, that's great, Clay, but they still don't have enough talent to win X, Y, and Z. Like that may be true, but you want to position your team in the best way to win those games. And I just don't think that Terry Francona, as of April 9th, has done that.
Yeah, do you think? I mean, the huge complaint about the David Bell era and whatnot is that he was like subject to whatever the analytics said at the time, right? Like in terms of pulling pitches early or whatnot, or situational pinch hitting and things of that nature. Like he seemed to be the guy that was just there to make the decision for whatever the analytics department said. Do you think there's a theory out there possibly that because Terry Francona is such an established manager that the analytics department's kind of muted right now? Because you're right, like a lot of people are pointing out like Ellie, without McLean and between us and Ricky pointed out, I think McLean might be their best hitter with the least amount of holes in his swing. But like now that he's not in the lineup, like having Ellie at second seems baseball logic, like that's what you do. But anyway, like it seems like maybe like they're giving him the a lot more leeway in terms of making his own decisions and whatnot. There any credence, do you think, to that at all?
Yeah, I don't really know. Like, I didn't really think of like, are they calloused from the previous manager? I haven't really thought about it that way, but I mean, it could be, and maybe they just, and part of this agreement had to, and I don't know this, I'm just speculating, but it had to have been like, hey, if you come manage this team, then you can do whatever you want. You can call the shots. There's not going to be this, and that. And I was really excited about the Francona signing, and I think he's awesome. Like, I love listening to the guy talk. I think the world of him. I just think what he's done so far in this small sample size, it's just tough to justify. And I don't know if I'm not the type of person that listens to every post game interview. So I don't know if these questions have been asked and if he's answered and what his answers say and whatnot. But um my issue with David Bell, by the way, just to put it on the record, wasn't so much like David Bell's a horrible manager. That was never my stance. My stance with him was it was just time to go. How often do we see this in sports? The head coach, the good head coach in football gets fired. Or, whatever it may be. It's the first domino when shakeup needs. First, it's the players, we're going to shift this guy up and down, whatever. Okay. Team keeps losing. The coach goes, the GM goes, and then you really start shedding off of, from there. So for me, it was like his message got stale. He always looked like someone had just killed his dog. Like, you're in the clubhouse with this guy 180 something days a year. Like, if the message gets stale, it's just time to go. If this guy doesn't look like he's motivating these players anymore, like, then it's time for a change. So it wasn't even so much like David Bell's this horrible, horrible X's and O's type manager as much as it was just time for a change.
Yeah, and I have like a different side to that too. I was watching, so I don't watch a whole lot of games during spring training. I just,
No.
but I caught a game and Brad Meter was up in the booth with the broadcast team and he was kind of talking about who's going to play where they're going to bat and stuff. And I wonder if maybe they have more of a hand in the lineup than we think.
Sometimes I don't know this for a fact. When I say I know, I mean I've heard this, but that other organizations do operate in that manner, where it's either, hey, we want this type of an order, or we want this player to be in this spot. And if they're not, sometimes that player can be traded or sent down or whatever it may be. And I would be surprised if that was the case, just considering that Terry Francona is the manager. If it was a brand new person who's never managed some young guy, like I could see that. I just don't picture Francona saying, "I'm willing to come out of retirement to kind of have all the blame fall on me on someone else's decisions." And honestly, I don't think that Santiago Espinal would be in the two hole if it was not if it was anyone else's influence besides Francona. I wrote an article right before the season about, and I mentioned several times, I know Espinal is going to be a Francona guy. You can just tell. He likes the old school idea of this contact hitter, slap hitter type. I can just tell Espinal is going to play way more than he probably should, and that we will think he will. And so far, that's exactly what's happened. And that's not me tapping myself on the back. It's just me saying this is probably why we're seeing this, because Terry Francona views Espinal in a different light than we do, or I do. I don't want to speak for you all. I don't know if you have strong feelings on Santiago Espinal one way or another.
No, he's really good defender. That's about it, really, for me. He's a good, like you said, a good like a bat on ball player. But yeah, his defense,
He's a fine
that
bench
play
player.
he made today was phenomenal. That saved the game up to that point, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, I wouldn't bat him second. That's for sure. I would like sixth or seventh at best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and my take is don't put him in the outfield. Talk about insult to injury about proving you right, Clay, about how our outfield is about as insipid as it can be. Is seeing guys like Espinal in the outfield. I know Lux at least has played there before and whatnot. But anyway, the point being is that I'm more inclined to agree with you the fact that I think Terry does have a lot more say freedom, but he has a lot more control over his lineups and whatnot because I think we remarked on it in our before the season started. Like he said, this is going to be the lineup. It's going to be Friedel first, McLean second, Ellie third, Hayes fourth, and like it was like this rigidity. So like I don't know. I don't want this to be like a Tito hate session, but it feels like like the rigidity might be something that an old school approach manager obviously would cling to because there's familiarity with guys in the lineup where they're supposed to be. But at the same time, when McLean goes down, like we don't have a McLean backup. You know what I mean? Like so, like it feels like there's some sort of a loss, and the Reds are known for having platoon guys like an Espinal and whatnot, and it just feels like we're kind of I don't know what Francona's end game is, but I hope he can kind of learn his players and get a little more familiar to have some more flexibility.
One thing I will say in his defense is I think you need a larger sample size before you start making drastic changes. So if his idea is this is what we want and we need 60 games before we change, like 60 may be too many, but you get what I'm saying. However, like it's still fundamentally where I disagree is like putting Espinal there, regardless, and like putting Ellie third. Like I'd rather you just started him at second or even lead off or whatever it may be. So I get wanting to hold tight for a while just because you need a larger sample. I understand that, but like if it's if I'm going to Shoney's and ordering a steak and it sucked, right? And I just keep going to Shoney's ordering the same steak, hoping that it's going to get better. Like it won't. So like the beginning product needs to be better, and that's where I sit. Is like we need that beginning product to change a little bit in that batting order. But of course, you don't have Hayes, you don't have McLean. Like it's they're not. He's not working with all of his ingredients. So it is kind of tough. Again, too early in the season to really harp too long on it, but it's something that is at least bugged me because I thought Francona would be totally different. I thought that he would have leaned in, and admittedly, I did not watch a ton of you know how I watched Cleveland games, so I wasn't sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, what does he need to do in the strategy with it. I just kind of have them on and I watch the game without thinking much of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't watch much Guardians either these last couple of years, but I know for sure. I think J-Ram always batted second as far as I remember. Quan setting the table. So, like, I guess I don't know. I guess maybe the sample size needs to be a little bit bigger before Francona makes his moves, but it seems like it's been enough, at least for Reds fans, to see. I don't know. So
Yeah, and Jay ran bad third quite a bit. But I think that those Cleveland teams just have better talent. So when you have better talent, like everything is less scrutinized because it works. Like you can cover up a mistake when it works. But that doesn't mean that the process to get there is the right process. All because it works once does not mean it'll work the majority of the time. So that's kind of where I'm at now. And I know, like, Frank Kona knows so much more about baseball. He's forgotten more than I'll ever know. And it's not me saying this guy's an idiot or anything. I'm just shocked at some of the moves he's made.
Yeah, I saw where you had recently said that Hunter Green is the best priced ace in baseball, and I'm looking at his contract now. He's making $8.3 million this year. And no, he's making $6.3 million this year, 8.3 next year, and then in 27 he makes 15.3. In 28 is 16.3 with a club option for 21 million in 2029 for his age 29 season. What? How in the hell did we pull that off?
Yeah. These pre-arb deals are they're pretty unique how they're set up. So those who may not understand, essentially a player has 6 years of service time before they hit free agency, 3 years pre-arbitration, 3 years of arbitration. So players who sign these type of deals get a little bit more money up front in exchange for maybe a year or two on the back end of the contract. So in Hunter Green's case, he said, "Yeah, I'll sign this deal. I will give you a year of what would be his free agency and the club option, which if things continue on this trend, the club will accept. So essentially 2 years. In exchange, I get my money early. It's a win-win. He hits free agency, even if that club option is exercised. He is free agency at 29 years old, can sign a massive contract. Bad news, Reds fans. This is probably the only deal Hunter Green's going to sign because if this continues, or even a similar trajectory, he's 35 plus million, 30 million plus a year. I don't think the Reds will do that for a pitcher. That's why they keep drafting them. This deal is so good. If you look at the other young-ish, 3 years in the league aces, they've either signed deals that guarantee just their arbitration, or sometimes they do like 2 year deals. Like Casey Mize did this, and Cole Reagan's, where instead of hitting arbitration again next year, let's settle on a deal for these 2 years. The deals that have kind of extended in similar to Green's, and I wrote about this as well. If people aren't following, they can check it out. But Brandon Pfaadt for the Diamondbacks just signed a deal. Now he's older than Green, even though he's only pitched 1 year. He's older than Hunter Green. And it was a similar enough deal. And Brian Bayo from the Red Sox signed a very, very similar deal to Hunter Green. Bayo's a good pitcher. I don't think he has the ceiling Hunter Green does. So this is just a great deal. And when you mentioned, I think it was $16 million, Alex Cobb, who missed all of last year, I think he pitched 3 innings last year, just signed a $15 million 1 year deal coming off injury at 37 years old. Starting pitching is very expensive. Very. Alex Cobb's a back of the rotation type. I mean, we saw Frankie Montas get what, 20 million or whatever it was. Like, it's expensive. And the Reds locked up Hunter Green, who's not only a phenomenal and ascending pitcher, he's the type of guy you want in that clubhouse. He's the face of a franchise type. And I know Ellie is right there with him. Hunter Green is one of the most well-spoken, thoughtful people. I love listening to the guy talk. He always says interesting things. His perspective is unique. He's phenomenal in the community. He's the type of player you want to shell out money towards. The Reds saw that early and they locked him up. And the best move that a Reds front office has made in some time.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that the front office is trying to do the same thing with McLean? Supposedly, there's no details out on what that deal was offered before the season started, but I think it was kind of similar type of situation.
Yeah, and honestly, so I actually heard that was false too, which it's all hearsay. So who actually knows? But I don't understand why McLean would accept that no matter what. Um, so obviously the Reds thought, okay, he was injured all last year, like we can get him on a really low price. And McLean probably said, I was injured all of last year. I don't want to accept a low price. I'm better than. So it didn't really make sense, the timing to me. So I didn't see it as like, oh my gosh, he hates the Reds. He doesn't want to stay here, as much as it's just like, oh, okay, like this is just not going to work out right now. Now, if McLean's injured all year again, then maybe the Reds are probably glad that he didn't sign, because now you're talking, oh, I don't know, like let's just wait and see. And these pre-arb deals always sound so good in theory. There are a lot of examples of them going south. A lot. There's a lot of examples of them being awesome, great deals. So it's not as cut and dry and as easy as it sounds or as it appears. And the reason why they seem to be a higher hit rate is because the only players that get offered them are usually extremely good prospects who have proven themselves for 2 or 3 years in the majors. Like, of course, they're going to have a higher hit rate. Players who only have 1 year of success that sign them, it's a much lower hit rate.
Yeah, and I was thinking about some more contracts that we've given out in the last, I don't know, decade or so, and it feels like the only one that's actually really sort of made an impact was, I guess, offensively was Nick Castellanos for that one season, because the 2020 season, or it wasn't, or his first season wasn't great, and we were all
Yeah.
worried about the opt outs and stuff. And then we got Moose, Moustakis, and that whole situation was just, I guess, kind of unfair to him, because you can't really help injuries.
No.
And now with the whole Jamer Candelario contract, it's like, can we just hit on a bat just one time? Because it feels like the only real other one, maybe other than Castellanos, you have to go back maybe when we traded for Griffey. Just that's about it.
There was one big one that we're missing. Shin-Soo Choo, baby. He was great.
Yes.
1 year he was in
1 year.
Cincinnati. He was awesome. But no, your point remains the same. The Reds have whiffed on free agents, offensive free agents, a lot of times in the years or periods or windows, whatever you want to call it, where they needed them the most. And when the Reds, who do not invest, as we all know, money often, and when they do, it's not a humongous amount. Um, they have invested some, like that offseason, and it didn't go so well. And then, they had a really awesome, another tip of the cap. I forgot about this when I'm talking about great deals. The Suarez deal that they signed was phenomenal. Such a good value. However, he injured his shoulder, had a bad season, and the Reds more or less salary dumped him. I understand the whole, there was COVID and money and blah 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 blah. Suarez has almost hit 300 career home runs. He is still cooking today. He is still a very very good player, and this team could really use him. That is hindsight 2020 at the max. Back then, I was ready for him to go because I thought he was totally done. I thought his shoulder was messed up, blah blah blah, and he's ended up to be a great player. Um, but yeah, so even with the ones that they've traded away, they've had some bad luck with.
Yeah, I was looking at. I got bored on Baseball Reference, and
Oh gosh,
I wanted to compare the trade with him and Winker going, and we got Fraley and Williamson, and I guess specifically Fraley because he's the one that plays every day. Suarez has a 10.1 WAR since then, and Fraley's got a 1.4. And Suarez has played in 177 games more. He's got over almost 1,000 hits more, or no, 1,000 at bats, and
yeah.
200 more hits, and then obviously the home runs and the RBIs. Sucks, man, because I guess for a lot of people, like Suarez was a fan favorite too, and
Oh yeah.
he was such a likable guy, and I agree with you. I think he needed to go when it happened. And you look at the trade, like we got a 25-year-old Fraley, you got a prospect in Brandon Williamson, and then the player to be named later was Connor Phillips. Like that was a legit. We swung and I think we hit, but then it just development never really seemed to really take off.
Yeah, and then it was Jesse Winker was going out, and like they started shedding some of these players that they had developed, and these are good players. They're not the best players in the world. They didn't trade away a all-star year in and year out or anything like that, but they've traded away some good talent, and now it's time. Okay, like the Luis Castillo trade, like you're starting to kind of see what the return looks like, and this is the natural path of sports. So David Bell fired last year. The GM who's done the rebuild and traded and whatnot, like his talent's starting to come up. His trades are starting to be here. Spencer Steer, Christian Encarnacion Strain, so on, so on. So then you'll see, all right, if this doesn't work, who's next to go? General manager, baseball or president of baseball operations, whatever the official title is now. And then what happens? Another rebuild. So the Reds are in this window now where it's now or never. It's time to start winning games because they have a young, talented core that needs to be more talented, and really more than anything needs to be supplemented with more proven vets, and not Jamer Candelario.
Yeah, and don't forget the Chairbox guys would tell you that they definitely won the trade for Suarez because he's no longer there in Seattle. So there's that little caveat too. But anyway, besides that, speaking, I guess, more even broadly about contracts and whatnot, does Ellie De La Cruz get extended? And how do you see that going? Is it something that's going to be dragged out because it's Boris representative type of situation? Or is it a situation where they're just kind of like you said, it's going to be a cycle and it might end up ugly?
This is not directed at you. This is a general comment, but I think a lot of fans forget or look past the fact that any signature on these deals, any type of contract, is a two-way interest. So, like, Ellie has to want to stay here. If I'm Ellie, why would I sign that deal? I have no interest in signing any deal if I'm Ellie De La Cruz. I could be one of the highest paid players in baseball. So for me, I would have no interest. I wouldn't even entertain it. And if that's the case, I do not blame him. Boris client, non-Boris client, I don't want to get locked into anything right now if I'm him. He's unique, and that's not just applied, that's not copy and paste any really good player. That's like Ellie has this type of swagger to him, and like he's the type of person that is like a franchise could sign, and like fans are super excited about. Ellie De La Cruz is not Ian Happ, who's a really good player, but he's Ian Happ. So for me, I'm not signing anything, and Scott Boras clients just don't really do that to begin with. Very rarely does that happen. So I don't expect him to sign with the Reds before his free agent year, and we'll wait and see. I would be very surprised if Ellie De La Cruz signed a contract with the Reds past his first 6 years of control. I think it's going to get really expensive. I don't know. Like I just need to see it first. Like I need to see the Reds invest that kind of money because we're not talking about the Joey Votto deal is one that people will point towards and all, but the deals have gotten much bigger since then, much bigger. And if Ellie's a $35 million player, if he becomes that, like I don't know, I've never seen the Reds do that before. They never have. So what makes me believe that they will?
It's a little bit off. This season and after next season, the CBA is up. And do you think that might have a factor in terms of maybe there's revenue sharing type of changes or whatnot, or maybe just the Castellinis will have some sort of incentive to, or there may be some sort of different incentives to keep those type of players, or is that just too far off to kind of imagine?
Too far off right now. I think that should play into a lot of players' decisions, and in a way that benefits actually the team. Because if I'm a player, I'm worried about a lockout. I want guaranteed money. I do not want a situation where I don't have a contract or I'm making, whatever it may be. Um, I think at the end of the day, too, a lot of players, and Ellie, I just don't think he falls into this boat in particular, but a lot of players, Christian Campbell is a great example. I wrote about him. He just got extended from Boston. He was a fourth round pick 2 years ago. He signed that guy put his name on a piece of paper and got $60 million. Like that's a generational wealth. As a fourth round pick, somebody with 1 year in the minors of proven success, like you just take that because you don't know what could happen. Someone like Ellie's a little bit, a different level of player. But I do think like if you were to approach like if CES or he's a bad example because I wouldn't want to give him that type of deal just yet, but kind of that tier of player.
Yeah.
Matt McLean, honestly, like I don't think McLean's interested, but if I were McLean, I would be, especially because you just don't really know what's going to happen. So um, for a lot of people, it makes sense, but it's such a unique situation where the stars have to align.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking more about like you said, the mutual interest is
Mhm.
something, and his arbitration numbers could be like the highest paid player the Reds have ever had. So, like, do you think this is projecting a lot? And I don't want to put any pressure on you, but do you think there's a chance, barring the CBA, like, do they trade him with like 2 years of control left?
I don't think it's impossible. I think the situation that would have to the most likely situation is the Reds are a decent team. They're okay. They're fine. They're 500-ish, and they just keep paying Ellie his ARB numbers, and we'll see what happens. But there is a path where this rebuild and everything that's kind of gone towards this quote unquote window goes south fast. And out of nowhere, the Reds look like crap. They look like the White Sox, right? The White Sox had all these players and they had all these people signed long term. Everything's great. Everything's peachy. We're going to win World Series. And it just goes down fast. Then it just makes too much sense. You have to. Um, and it's not even something like I would oftentimes be willing to blame the Reds. I'm not afraid to say the Reds should do this. This is stupid. This is awful. If Ellie's the type that wants, if he is the type of player that demands a 15-year deal, $35 million a year, whatever it may be, and your team is absolutely awful, and it's kind of what we've seen before. Like I wouldn't even blame them. Like you can get a massive haul. Like you may just have to do that. Would I ever want that? No. I would much rather the Reds sign him, but I understand if everything went south and they were to trade him. Like it would make sense to me as much as I would hate to see it. If it were me, give him the deal. Give him the long term deal. I want him playing as a Red forever. We'll see how likely that is.
Yeah, because I was thinking to be like, like the Juan Soto situation with Washington, because I think he had another year of control.
Yeah, 2 years.
And they traded him, and they got a pretty good haul back. So I don't want to see it. I wanted to see him be a Red for life. But if he's the only guy we got, I don't want another Joey Votto situation where we have a Hall of Fame player and nothing to show for it.
For sure.
Yeah. You got anything else at this point? It's not necessarily the highest high point to be like, oh yeah, another Joey Votto in the making, where he's got nothing to build around. But yeah, we definitely appreciate your time, Clay. It's been good to get to know you and
Oh, well, okay. If you all don't mind, let me hijack this for a minute and ask what your all's bright spot of this season has been so far, or what you all feel good about so far.
Go ahead, Rick.
I guess I'll go with Ashcraft in the bullpen. I think he looks
that's a good
really
one.
good. I've said on here a couple times, I think he's a future closer. And
Yeah.
I hate it because he does have that multiple innings in him, but with the way Martinez has been going, I wouldn't mind seeing him go back into the bullpen as your innings guy. And then because I don't think Diaz looked too good today. He had that he got out of it, but he got hit pretty hard when he did get hit. And like Ashcraft, if he can shove the way he's been showing, like yesterday, he looked really good. Um, if he could be your closer, and then you have Maxwell and May coming up, this year or at worst next year, that's a good back of the bullpen, and it's young too. So I really like that a lot.
Yeah, for me, it's tough because small sample size, like we've kind of touched on a little bit. I think I don't know. Philosophically, I've been pretty okay with how the Reds have been building their roster. You touched on it, but like they're definitely going the route where they have starting pitchers, building up their kind of their stable of horses, and having guys, even just trading for Brady Singer was a great deal. So far, he's been spectacular, and even if he's not spectacular, he eats innings like no other Reds pitcher we've seen in a while. But also just philosophically, just kind of like the bullpen is veteran guys that have kind of been there, guys that got establishment. I mean, even like Taylor Rogers had a bad day today, but like he's got experience with closing. Scott Barlow's got experience with closing, so I'm not too worried about the Alexis Diaz kind of situation at this point because we've got at least guys that can come there. Tony Santillan as well could possibly be that guy, but. Yeah, the thing that's concerning and kind of why we kind of brought up the outfield stuff that you brought up is the lineup seemed like it doesn't have enough, and we've touched on that a couple things. It's just not enough to get the job done. Whether it's really kind of focusing on Ellie and McLean when he was in the lineup to be the guys that win you the games all the time. Like baseball doesn't work like that. Baseball, you don't have the ability to like have Ellie be always in that situation to win games or just throughout the game. There's nine guys that have to kind of put a lineup together to put runs on the board, to get wins on the board, and unfortunately, the Reds are not willing to spend in certain areas, and it's showing its ugly head right now at the moment. But I think the philosophy, at least for like a small market team, I mean, I joked on this is like my favorite year for the Reds already is 2026. And that we're kind of like we're ascending hopefully this year, and then getting to 2026, maybe get some big free agent or somebody that can really kind of put us over the top.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for having me on. Seriously, I did not feel like an hour and 15 minutes, but I really enjoyed it and happy to come on anytime. I appreciate you all.
Yeah, thanks for letting us join your show for a question there and having having a little, because usually we're the ones asking questions. Usually Ricky and I are going back and forth about whatever nonsense we talk about half the time. But yeah, Clay Snowden, check out, we have his stuff at the bottom, justbaseball.com, and Clay_Snow without a W on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, and follow all his burners and whatnot. And thanks again, Clay, and we really appreciate it.
No problem. You all have a good one.
We're the Reds.